Today we have our first makeup designer. We're talking to a man who has touched the faces of Jake Gyllenhaal, Daniel Craig, Eminem, and Ryan Gosling. I'm super excited if you can't tell.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hey everyone, welcome to On the Fly Filmmaking. Today we've got Donald Mowat, makeup designer of so many amazing, amazing movies. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate you having you here. And in every episode, we ask people to pick a song that really revs them up. And so we talked about it a little bit beforehand, and we first went to Tupac because that's something you like to play in the makeup trailer, but then ended up here with Lose Yourself by Eminem because he wrote it in your makeup chair?
Yes, he did.
That's amazing. Okay, so tell me a little bit about that before we get into the rest of your career.
Some of the best times of my life working with Marshall Mathers, Marshall, on 8 Mile, and then subsequent years on a number of projects outside of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I met him kind of by accident at the studio. We're putting together 8 Mile, and flew me to Michigan to meet with him, and it just worked out incredibly well.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So you said, and you were saying that he wrote this on his hand.
Well, he did. He writes everything on little pieces of like napkins or pieces of paper, and he works so hard on the movie between pre-production, music, shooting the film, which was his first real acting job, getting makeup done, getting all those tattoos covered. We spent a lot of time together. Yeah. And he wrote everything down, and you see in the poster of the film where he's writing on his hand, which is something he does. And
that's got to be so nerve-wracking to my hands get really sweaty all the time.
Okay.
So I couldn't write something on my hand and know that I would keep it. But I do write little notes everywhere, and in my phone, like in my notes app, it's everywhere, or text to myself.
I write everything down. Yeah. My father taught me that I would never forget if I wrote something down, and he's always been right. Yeah. And I think with Marshall, he did write everything down, every little snippet, or he would ask the meaning of a word or something. So it was a very special time.
Yeah, that's so
and
great.
Lose Yourself kind of is an incredible song, and it means a lot to me. It's very special.
Yeah, even we started playing it here in the booth, and you were like, I could feel the nostalgia coming up in you. Yeah, what does it mean to you?
I think it was a great time, very promising to work with somebody. I think he's really brilliant. I mean, the people involved in the film, and a lot of sadness came with it. I mean, we lost Brittany Murphy. Curtis Hanson, our director, has passed away. But it was a time of great creative energy. I felt a lot of freedom. He was sensational to work around, just to be around, and unbelievably respectful. So whatever people had said, or the discussions around him, or the genre of music, I take exception to, because they were the nicest people for a first-time actor. Yeah. Unbelievable experience, and we've always stayed in touch, and it was just a great time. Yeah, that's so great. I love hearing that, and I love hearing when people are good, and they're creatives. They're trying to make good work as well. Yeah. And they're just everybody being respectful to each other, regardless of what the character is or the brand. Like he's like this hard rapper guy, but like he's a good person. But it's a character. It's a character. Slim Shady is a character. Yeah. And I got to know Marshall, and that's how I would address him, as Marshall. It's Eminem. I mean, that's a character. That's a character. Yeah. Sometimes I go by Eminem also because I'm Marielou Mandl, but they call me D, Big D. I mean, you have rap names. Awesome. It's cool. Yeah. So to find more of Donald's work, you can check him out at donaldmowat.com. Also on Twitter, Donald Mowat, and on Instagram, Mowat Donald. Are you getting really into using social media yet? I'm really learning. I'm getting lessons from the much younger people I work with, production assistants, people on the staff. Everyone telling me, can you stop, make a space. There was someone today on set, the director's assistant. You need more spaces. You need to do this. I'm learning. You need more spaces? What do they need? Well, I think they said that I don't make enough space between the hashtags, and I have to use at. I'm old. Yeah. I mean, we need some help. I mean, it's like a whole new thing to learn. But I think I talk to everybody who comes on the show about Instagram, because I love Instagram. Right. And I think for anybody in the filmmaking industry or any kind of creatives, it's a useful tool. It's the new website. It's your new portfolio. I love it. I mean, it's a miracle I can use. I still had a BlackBerry, and I thought if it was good enough for President Obama, it was good enough for me. And I still have a BlackBerry. It's just too embarrassing to pull that
Yeah.
out. But I
haven't seen
also
a
have
BlackBerry in
CDs.
years.
I have CDs in the makeup trailer. Now, many people will make fun of that, but you know what? Sometimes nobody's got a speaker. There's something that doesn't work. Old school. Write it down on a piece of paper.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing
so I
wrong
have
with
my
that.
CDs, and we're good to go.
Awesome. Well, then I want to talk about like some of your styles as far as being a makeup designer, because I'm sure some of it's still old school and some of it's new school, because you've been in this career for a long time.
Right,
So
right.
before we get into that, let's talk about how you got into this career.
Okay.
So how did you get started in the world of makeup?
I just always loved movies. I love films. I love the theater. I went to a lot of movies when I was a kid with my brother. We saw, like people do, double features on a Saturday. My dad would take me
Yeah.
to repertory films, like period work, detail and period work that I'd see Sunday night. It's kind of cliche, Sunday night PBS, but that's a reality.
Yeah.
And you start to watch it and notice the differences. And I was very interested in the costuming and the art direction. High school, just ending up, a bunch of kids doing a bad, like Neil Simon play in 9th grade. And the teacher said, you have to do the makeup. Everyone took a turn,
Yeah.
Someone's got to open the curtains. Someone's got to do the props. I did the makeup. And I read Richard Corson's book and used pencils. And somebody's mother was an Avon lady and bought this makeup kit for, I don't know, $12, and just painted lines on 12-year-old faces playing I mean, it was outrageous.
Yes.
And baby powder in their hair. But I did it, and
Yeah.
people thought I could do it.
Yeah.
And I read everything there was and realized this could be a job. And I figured that out pretty quickly and started working in theater and amateur stuff and operatic things, and really that's how I started.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that a lot with me sometimes, because like I'm on camera a lot, so I know how to do my own makeup, but I
Right.
have a lot of people who are like, can you do my makeup? I'm like, I don't know, probably.
Right.
But I've been doing my face for so long, but I learned because of school.
Right.
And like I was forced to take like a theater makeup
Sure,
class, and
sure.
then like we went through and we did like old face and young face and monsters or this and that. And like because of the things I learned there, I was like, oh, yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
You can use this and apply it all the time.
that's right.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
And everybody should learn a little bit. It's that thing of at school, there are many things you learn that you will never use practically in your life. But actually, once in a while, something comes up. You go, oh my God, I'm really
Yeah.
glad I learned that.
This is a good thing to know.
And that's one of them. So I think theater arts are really important, music, just to be able to get a sense of what everyone does. And that was a good grounding for me for
Yeah.
when I actually really started. Which was a few years later, where I started to get paid to do the
Yes,
job, which
that's
is
what-
when you become a professional.
So when did that switch over?
Very luckily, maybe at 20, I started to get called. I was trying to do different college programs. It was just one, a lot of closed doors. It's really hard to get started. It's hard to get mentored.
Yeah.
And I think I really saw that in the 80s, where you have to make it happen. And I would write to people who didn't respond. I would ask. So the few people who were really kind and helpful, you would take everything in, drink it all in. If they said, no, you need to do this, you need to apply here, you need to try that. Volunteer at a cable TV station,
Yeah.
which is what I did for no money, which made me legit. And I think the minute you become legit, and I always say that to anybody I'm teaching or mentoring,
Yeah, because you do a lot of mentoring with the like
I
BAFTA
try.
programs.
I
and things
try.
like that.
I don't do enough. I think we all have to do more.
Yeah.
BAFTA mentoring is really an important part of my life, and I teach wherever I go.
Yeah.
If anybody feels there's a program or they need more education in schools from filmmakers, because I think of myself more as a filmmaker than just a makeup artist.
Absolutely.
And that we can go in and, I can talk to kids about very basic principles of almost anything in film and television. That's what they want.
Yeah. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What book to read, where to start, and that gets the ball rolling. So that I'd say that's a really important part of the
Yeah.
mentoring I'm interested in doing.
Right, because you didn't have your mentor, and you kind of had to forge your own way. So you're using that knowledge
Yeah.
to kind of help other people. Like even if they have a mentor, or if they don't, like things like this show, I think are helpful for people who they don't even have access to somebody who could be a mentor, but they can get from you some names of books and some avenues to go
It's
down.
all you need. I mean, I say I didn't have mentors, but in a sense I did, because I met a woman at a theater company called Beryl. Oh, I'm sure she's long passed away. Beryl.
Oh, Beryl.
Beryl Lowe, I want to say, but she had been trained, really properly trained as an actress in theater in London at the Royal Albert Hall, but she knew theater makeup. And when I went to help out on a operatic Mikado, some kind of Gilbert and Sullivan, she taught me and would tell me, and that's how I heard about Richard Corson's book, which is the Bible of
What's
makeup
the title
artists.
of this book?
Richard Corson's The Art of Makeup. And then you go into the library, when people went to libraries, and you go through the shelving and you can see film and theater and makeup and costuming.
Yeah.
And I took all those books home when we went to libraries, which I guess I'm trying to make a point to everyone.
Yeah, we should still
go
go
to a library, find a book on a subject you'd like to learn about.
Well, like Marissa, who's the producer on the show, she and I like go to the bookstore all the time. We're walking around like fools with like hardcover books, and we're like, no, it's so great.
It's where I find a lot of inspiration. I find books, and any film I'm on, I've got a number of books at home that I travel with that I know I'll refer to for a picture, an idea, or a concept. I think that would be for anybody starting. So when I meet the kids at Washington Prep in LA, a lot of them, they're interested in music or sound or makeup or hairstyling. Like, that's how we give them, a start. And I know someone who could come in and talk to you guys.
Yeah.
And then we bring in Corey Chill Hill, who's a great barber hairstylist from straight out of Compton, came to the school. And then a first AD, first assistant director I work with, Don Sparks, he comes in, and my key, Melanie Romero. So we start to, and the kids get to meet people who do different things.
Yes. And then they start to see there are other options where you can be a professional and have access to being in the film industry, where like we had talked a little bit about this beforehand, that like everybody wants to be in filmmaking as the actor,
That's right.
or as like a director. Like they only see these high end, like the top of the pyramid. But there's all of these jobs, which is what we talk about on this show, that you can have access to and really get a lot of creative joy out of.
Yeah. To do something you love to do or you're interested in, that alone for me has been, I'm so lucky to have made it this far in my life where I've worked at a job, for the most part, not always. I mean, there's been a couple of jobs that you really regret.
Yeah.
But for the most part in one's life, to work at something you love is so remarkable.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate and lucky. And I try to express that to younger people starting out, is it's not always about this thing of people seeing the top and the famous is it's quite depressing for me, because there's so many great craftsmen, people I think are remarkably talented craftsmen that are not famous people. They're not on camera. They're people who actually make the films.
Yes.
And directors of photography and editors and music, and you think, no, those are really the stars.
Yeah, because it takes so many people to make a film, and I love that as makeup, because like you are our first makeup department at all to speak to on this show, but you consider yourself a filmmaker, which is what I always press to people. Where I'm like, we're all filmmakers, and it requires all these pieces to make it wonderful.
That's changed for me. I feel very strongly about this, that when I started, I felt much more a camaraderie, that we were all making a film together and we saw a complete picture. It's one of the reasons I love working with Denis Villeneuve so much, and we've done those number of films together, because we're used to each other, and which is why a lot of actors will work with the same makeup artist, because you don't have to go through that. You just know what to expect.
Right. And that's how these teams get built. Teams that,
Sure.
like I work on a lot of sets, and like I have people that I know, like if I have this crew, I'm good.
It's comfort as well.
Yeah.
It's important, and a lot of people like to mix it up and have a new crew or a new makeup department head on every film, and that's okay. Everyone works differently. It's not wrong or bad. It's different for them.
You're right.
I tend to like to work with people I know, and when I take a chance of going outside of the box, it is a bit risky. I often hire a lot of newer people to work in my team, because it's important. Somebody did it for me.
Yeah.
So it's very important for me to kind of
You're paying it forward in that sense.
I think you have to. And if you can't, or it's not it doesn't work within your framework or where you're filming, is that then you go to a program like the Academy or BAFTA or the TV Academy or anywhere that have a program that need help.
Yeah, to offer that.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, like I feel like this is my like service to the people who want to be in the
fantastic.
industry, is because I know
me.
coming up, like I wanted to be on camera. I was like, I'm an actress, I'm a host, I'm in front of the camera, until that was not available to me. But I was like, I still want to work. Like I always want to create.
Right.
So I just started learning how to do the things myself, and which has led me to trying every spot on a film set.
It's fantastic.
And then like talking to people who like giving back to people where I'm like, oh, there are all these really great places that you can go. So I love that you do that. And I'd love to chat with you about your mentorship program more at the end of this. But first, let's talk about some of your projects that you have upcoming and have done recently. So upcoming is The Darkest Mind. So we'll check out the trailer for that, and we'll chat a little bit about your different makeup styles.
Okay.
All right.
You're one of us. If you're one of us, you can find us.
Soon, there wouldn't be any kids anywhere. The government wasn't afraid of what happened to the ones that didn't make it. They were afraid of us. Because the ones that survived changed.
Ruby, you are very rare. Among the most powerful.
We're going to a place where kids can live together on the outside. The only people who would ever help us were us.
Whatever happens, don't stop!
For their safety and yours, please turn over your children.
I'm smart enough to know you're hiding something. And you're smart enough to be hiding it.
I just didn't want you to be afraid of me. The more that I try to control it, the more damage that I do.
I can show you how to use your strengths the way they're meant to be used. We can fight back.
We don't have to stay in darkness. We've survived all of this. I will fight for all of us.
Awesome. That's coming out in August of this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're like, okay. You're
Is
like, I
it
don't know.
August?
Well, like you have such a like amazing work list here. So you've worked on First Man, which is Ryan Gosling's movie that's coming out
Claire Foy.
with Claire Foy, and that's about Neil Armstrong.
Yes.
And then you've got like a Dan Gilroy project. You just like worked on everything, like Blade Runner 2049, Stronger with Jake Gyllenhaal, and like just so very much. So you work, which is great. So what of this one? So in Darkest Minds, this is it's fantasy, but it's reality.
Right.
So what were there any challenges that came up during that project?
There were. I was very excited about this project. 'Cause while I was still on Blade Runner, an old friend of mine, a producer that I really, really like very much, called me and said, I know you love Atlanta, and we need you to come and do
Atlanta's
this
great.
film. And I was still in Hungary. I was there for 8 months on Blade Runner. And John Stark is a kind of classic movie producer that I've worked with before. We did Prisoners together. And I just love working with people who are loyal and respectful. And he said, you've got to do this film. It's all new young people, which I found very appealing. And Jennifer Nelson, our director, I met her actually right when I came back from Europe, and I thought so much of her. It was very exciting to have.
And I love hearing about more female directors.
A woman director on this project with starring a 19-year-old young lady called Amanda Stenberg that I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
And really, I'm very fond of these kids, and I would do, regardless how the film does, I mean, we all hope for great success. I'm in if there's a sequel.
Yeah.
Because it was a very nice, it was a spring, summer shoot. We finished in June. I loved working with those kids.
Yeah.
And it was a very happy set, a nice group of people. And the story is resonates today. And I mean, I felt like the books I don't know well. I read it. I read the script. It's fantasy, but it isn't. It's kind of based in reality,
Right.
which are films I'm drawn to.
Which I see that a lot from your list of work. And you came from a gig today. You came like directly from set, which was like
did.
so much fun because you're like, I just had to come from Koreatown with because this was happening. It's really, really wonderful.
A lot of changes were happening. We've
Yeah.
got 4 days left, and you know, it's ever changing. The call sheet, people getting ready for tomorrow, my assignments for each of my people, who's doing what, where we are. We have different things happening, prepping things.
Yeah.
So you know, coming from set is it's great. It's great to be working.
Yeah.
And
But exactly that is what we say on the show. That's why we're called On the Fly Filmmaking. Like no matter what department you're in, and no matter how much you prepare, you got to do some things on the fly. Like there's going to be
Everything.
adjustments you're going to have to do. It's
Well,
part of the game.
I was thinking of, you know, Dark as Minds. I mean, it was also one of the fewer jobs I've taken on as sort of hair and makeup designer.
okay.
So they wanted a more senior, established person, and then I would hire a local Atlanta head key hair person, which, you know, was a newer thing for me to do, but I quite enjoyed it because, again, I was able to hire someone who may not have otherwise been on a list as, you know what I mean, as a head
Yeah.
of department or a key, and then brought in a nice team, a very junior team. And I found it with a film with a young leading cast and a new live action director. I thought having a newer, less experienced crew kind of important to have.
Yeah.
And a very diverse crew in the hair and makeup department. And that was very important for me. And then I'm sort of the old timer with this younger crew, but I love working with these kids, and we all stay in touch.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like that. Like,
Yeah.
And I think when you're on a set, like I know from being on performer side, like you connect most with the makeup artist.
Yeah.
Because they're like intimate with your face. You're spending
Yeah.
time with them every single day, face to face,
Right.
chit chatting about whatever.
Absolutely. It's the first person you see, and I just being around people, younger adults, and, you know, we had our main cast range. I'm usually around people more my own age, but I think there's something really invigorating to be around younger people who are working, who are unbelievably mature, by the way, this cast, and enlightened, and quite a
Yeah.
lot of depth to their personalities and
Yeah.
characters.
Well, wasn't the girl who's the main actress? Wasn't she? She was in Hunger Games, right? So
Yes,
she's
Amanda
been working a
Stenberg.
while,
She's been working a long time,
and a lot
she's-
of her personal projects are really deep. Yeah.
She is, and she has a lot of substance. And, you know, people can say a lot about newer people in Hollywood and younger actors. These young, I hate to say kids, but to me they are kids, but I really love them all. And we're very close, and I think they bring me a lot of hope for what the future is
Yeah.
and for this industry. That a young woman of 19, our lead man, Harris Dickinson's probably 21, Skylan, I mean, they're all young, but they're really all really clever and
Yeah.
smart and nice
Yes.
to be around. They're not spoiled.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I love to hear that because I've heard horror stories of working with the younger actors, like just actors of any age, but like just don't be a jerk. Be good to work with.
Yeah.
Just, It's very, very basic like
I'm
skill
with
set.
you.
I want feel like I want to make T-shirts of this. Like, just don't be a jerk.
Don't-
be a jerk. Awesome. So let's talk about Blade Runner 2049 because
Okay.
that's a little bit more based in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's reality, but there are some like fantastical looking things
Right.
in there that you had
Okay.
to deal with. So I read in an article you did with I think the Hollywood Reporter. You're talking about the girl who's in pink, and that you had to find a bunch of different colors because you were also working with lighting department. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, you know, we didn't have a huge amount of prep. I was still on another film in Boston, and Denis, our director, extraordinary director and leader, who had asked me to do the film, and Roger Deakins, our
He was like one of my
cinematographer.
favorite cinematographers ever.
My
He
favorite.
just knows what to do.
You know, really, well, he loves what he does.
Yeah.
And we've all worked together a lot. And I knew getting ready to go to Hungary, I had a few meetings with our director. He did say something about pink, but the first concepts I saw, she looked kind of red to me. And I think what was really important is that from a makeup perspective is what is pink? What color is it? To everyone, it's something different.
Right.
But Roger, having worked with him before, and he's a friend and a brilliant cinematographer, that I could go to him and say, what color is it?
Yeah.
And he told like bubblegum. Now then, I'd met our actress Ana de Armas here in Los Angeles, had her fit for contact lenses, but I did have very little time and had to go into the beauty supplier where we get all our supplies in North Hollywood to ship, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of supplies to Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah. What's the supplier?
Nigel Beauty Supply.
It is Nigel. Okay. Yeah. Which you can go to if you. Like,
anyone could
you
go.
You can just go in there.
And I think a lot of young people who are starting in the industry, who are interested in makeup or hair, or related, special makeup effects, prosthetics, I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
I think the owners are great, but there are other beauty suppliers, to be fair, who also hire.
Really great
there's
stuff.
Friends, there's Namies, but Nigel is kind of my go-to. Friends are great. A lot of educators work in those places.
Yeah, and Namies, like I have a specific story about that. So when I first moved to LA and I was working on a short film, and it's one of those like we're all just everybody doing every job. And I knew from my makeup class that I took in college that I needed this like Ben Nye makeup kit.
Sure.
That was just going to give me like a basics of everything. We've got low budget, so I was like, okay, I'm going to spend my $20 on this kit or however much it costs. And I knew like I went there and they had it.
And they had it.
And they have everything from like beauty makeup to prosthetics to gore. Like,
everything.
It's really, really great. And like
Wigs,
just every eyelash
everything.
you would ever want.
Everything.
Yes.
And they supply between Nigel's Friends, you know, Namies supply most of the world, you know, beauty products, well, makeup products for film, television, theater, etc.
Yeah. So and I think that's really great that that like for a big scale movie like Blade Runner, I also have access to the same things.
Yeah.
Like I can walk into the same store and get the same have the same access. To a point. I'm sure you have like other access, but I can still start there.
Well, the pink is the pink. It wasn't that complicated. It was finding the right shade for Anna, for her color tone. I have a great key that worked with me, Joanne McNeil. I brought on great people, Chila Horvath from Budapest, who's a local Hungarian makeup artist, fantastic. She kept us all organized. We did that first makeup test, and we found the right pink, and it was Mayron, which is... I think Mayron have been doing theatrical makeup. I mean, I think the Blue Man Group still use Mayron. I could be wrong, but I feel it's in that world of things. So, and then we had, you know, Carrie came up, just needed sort of a contrasty wig, and I went back to Denis and said, is this where we're going? And that was it.
Yeah.
We did 2 versions, with and without the contact lenses. That was it.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah.
And then it's like you even as a, like for makeup department, it's not independent. Just like everything else on the set, you're having to work with the people who are lighting, the people who are shooting. Like you're having to collaborate all around.
Every department. So costume, makeup, hair, cinematographer. Like, do you need it like this? Do we have to do more pink? Or, you know, and then Roger gave it a bit of love with some pink in the lighting, and of course visual effects, who then make her large.
Yes.
And then of course the reflection, what I loved was the reflection on Ryan's face with the blood, which made his face go kind of pinky red. And I thought that was a really beautiful, one of my favorite images in the film.
Yeah.
And you couldn't work with a nicer guy. And that whole cast of remarkable, Anna, and that was on the fly, because that makeup was a very last minute, the night before. Denis and Ryan, we sort of talked about what we would do for this, and I had a picture up of Jack Nicholson from Chinatown.
Yeah.
As a kind of, put, like every department, pull little mood boards, and that kind of got this conversation started. I can't take full credit for, of course, Jared Leto with the lenses, but they love the idea, and we tried that with the bandaging on Ryan. And I think for Secret Cinema, which is coming up in London, it's really interesting the way they do that. I think people will turn up trying to look like Ryan Gosling with the bloody face and the bandages.
Right.
And
that's a look now.
It's a look.
It's not just like he was injured. It's not just a story point. It is a look.
It's a look. It was stylized. It's a little based in reality, as a lot of the film was, but it also had elements, a kind of homage to Jack Nicholson. There has a sort of a Clint Eastwood feel. There's a lot to it.
What is Secret Cinema?
Secret Cinema is a thing they do in London where they recreate like Moulin Rouge. It's
Is it like a shadow cast thing?
It feels it's very very sleek. I've not
Okay.
attended, but they do it with actors. It is. They have secret locations. They do it for 2 or 3 months every year.
Wow.
Look it up because it's really interesting and very, very well done. I think people pay for tickets, but they participate and they do the costumes and they film it. They had a video which sort of piqued my interest, was Moulin Rouge. They recreated in
Wow.
costume, makeup, everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that's like not an easy thing to just recreate. No, you
no.
can't just throw together Moulin Rouge.
That's right.
Awesome. Okay, so let's chat about Jake Gyllenhaal, and specifically I want to start with Stronger.
Okay.
So you work a lot with Jake Gyllenhaal. So
I've done a lot, 4 or 5 pictures with him. Mhm.
Yes. So, are you brought on? Somebody had asked me this when I was talking about interviewing you, like if you're brought on because of Jake Gyllenhaal or because you just happen to line up with those movies, or if Jake's like, call my guy.
Well, you know, yes and no. I think that sometimes things align themselves. I worked with him by accident on Prisoners because I was hired to be the department
Yeah.
head.
And that movie was so stressful as a viewer.
As a viewer, it was stressful as a department head. But I met one of the greatest experiences of my life, and such great people.
Yeah.
And I'd worked with them. But by Jake being in the film, and it just kind of happened, we ended up, he'd asked for me on a couple of other jobs. Sometimes it just times out right.
Yeah.
And he also produced Stronger, so I think as
Okay.
a producer,
He could
had
have his
wanted
pick of
me-
like, I know this guy is good.
he wants someone, because he's such a great producer as well, that he has a vision of what he wants other people to look like as well. It's
Yeah.
very important. And that's how I was brought on to Stronger.
Yeah, so Stronger is based in reality. It's about the guy who got his legs blown off at the Boston Marathon,
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Bauman.
Bowman.
So you're having to make an actor look like a real person that also
Right.
exists in the world. So
Right.
what was that like?
Well, I mean, they bear a resemblance. I usually don't work on sort of biopics. It's not my forte. It's not something I'm known for. There are people who do those films and do them really well in terms of the makeup and hair world.
Yeah.
But Stronger was appealing because Jake liked the ideas that I had. And I just think it's really important to say that for me, it wasn't about this horrific thing that happened to these people in Boston, but really the story of this man and his family. And Jeff is such an inspirational person, has been very kind to me on a personal level. Jake and Riva, his producing partner, I think David
Yeah.
Gordon Green, came up with a great idea that was a little reminiscent of something I felt comfortable working on, based in reality, and that I could recreate it. But I did more on Jake than I normally would to create a likeness to
Right.
Jeff there in the eyes.
Right, because I heard you put in darker contacts, but like he already has darker eyes, right? No, he's got light eyes.
Very light eyes, which
Okay.
I think for the first time I saw a possibility of changing something with Jake because he's so identifiable with those eyes.
Yeah.
And that we had tried a green color, and it was really by accident because something, I don't know, I had this moment where I was looking at pictures of what had happened, and it was horrific. But what happened to Jeff, and I don't really want to dwell on that because he's such a remarkable person, but something had happened to the eyes. And I
Right.
did, in my research, find out that catastrophic injury does change eye color.
Wow. I
And
would have never known that.
But there's little things that creatively you kind of think, I need to try something. And I did call Jake up and say, I know we're going to try green from blue, but it's very hard to change people's eye color. And I brought him into our specialty eye place, eye doctor, and one color went quite brown, and I knew, and Jake
That's
said,
it.
this is it.
Yeah.
And the shift, and then I brought on Cheryl to do the hair and gave him a perm. And that shift in Jake was such a different look because we had to get away from Prisoners and
Yeah.
other things. So that, and Tatiana Maslany she's so identifiable
Yes,
from
Orphan Black. Which he still is like 10 different characters,
10 different characters, but the same.
but the same. It's like brilliant. I just love
It's
it.
brilliant. Again, I just wanted her to have a no makeup look.
Yeah.
And that takes a minute. And that's what we did. I felt that she should reflect Jake's appearance would be her appearance. So,
Yeah.
you know, as he's recovering, she's recovering. And the mom, Miranda Richardson, who,
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of epic to get that wig made last minute. We didn't have much of a budget. I called a lot of favors, contact lenses as well, and off we went. And
Yeah.
it was a remarkable experience.
Yeah, so you like doing makeup that's based in reality.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And what do you like about that?
I think it's hard. I think it's challenging. I think it's undervalued, underrated. I think certainly in the industry.
Yeah.
People get it. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there's something, I just like to work on things that are subtle.
Yeah, when I look at movies that are like the looks are based in reality, right? So like I like to do a glam face, but that's just my like personal real life walking
Yeah,
around choice.
yeah.
But then I look at this and like I don't know how I would do that look. Because I'm just like, but like a little more mascara and like a little
Right,
more
right.
eyeliner. But when I see, you've worked with Emily Blunt, right? And so I just recently saw A Quiet Place, and like I'm looking at there, like it's post-apocalyptic. She's not putting on any makeup, but like I know that they put makeup on her.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can't figure out how they did that look.
Sure.
And also probably because her face is flawless.
Right.
You probably don't have to do too much to it. But yeah, can you speak to like what that is like versus like a full glam? I mean, not even a full glam, just putting on makeup to like putting on makeup that's not makeup.
In the end, it comes down to what serves the story, what serves the director and
Yeah.
the writer and the actor. If you're building character and the makeup is part of it, of course, then it's makeup driven. But when it becomes about the makeup, I'm not so interested.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like saying if a film becomes about, I don't know, a song or a voice or,
Yeah.
Working with Emily was great because I've seen her in other things. She's so good.
Yeah.
And but it takes a minute as well to create a no makeup look.
Yeah. Because you probably have to do a lot for prep to like prep the
It's
skin.
a lot of prep, but it's also making things look like nobody did anything. And I think that's what's been lost in a lot of films.
Yeah.
If it's a glamorous film, they go for it.
Yeah.
But most films aren't glamour. And if it's real life or, people often think a period film, oh, they look so glamorous. Well, no, they didn't really in that period. We've just led ourselves to believe everyone looked like that.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily real.
Right.
It's not wrong. It's just not my style. And I've done all that period stuff, and especially in television, we did a lot of movies of the week and 40s and different periods, but not everyone wore that makeup.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm more interested in, is the character and really working to develop the character. There's nothing worse when an audience, somebody tells me I didn't believe so-and-so in that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel it's like a personal failure.
No.
If I don't buy, I buy Jake Gyllenhaal as Jeff Bowman. I never,
Yeah.
or Tatiana, never would you think, oh my God, I didn't doubt it.
Yeah.
They didn't doubt it, which made it so convincing.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, especially like with Emily Blunt, it was in Sicario, correct?
Sicario.
Oh, Sicario. Yeah, Sicario. So she's like a military person, so she's not carrying around like her makeup kit with her.
No, but it's really attractive.
Yeah.
And people do look like that in the FBI and military. It's just, it's not never presented quite that way.
Yeah.
We also work in a business of stereotypes of how people look, what people think they look like. But she has a great beauty, but you believe her. There was never a moment that I didn't go, oh, she's fierce.
Yes.
And she's the heroine. She's the star of an action film that wasn't phony.
Yeah, it's
Right.
great. I thought she was really
Yeah.
wonderful in that. So then now let's chat about Daniel Craig. So you
Yes.
work, he is one that you work directly with him from project to project.
Exclusively, yes, yeah.
Correct,
For
okay.
Bond.
So how does that develop?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you like get assigned to him on one project and then he's like, no?
I worked on a film as a department head, and he just asked me if I would come and work on another film with him, and it just kind of led into doing just kind of, and they're different, and there's some very nice people.
Yeah.
And you get to be in London, which is my favorite city, I think. And it's fantastic. Now that's a fantasy.
Yeah.
Also based in reality, so it kind of suits me.
Yes. So it's, and with those Bond movies, are you only working with him?
Bond, I only work with him, and it just works better because he's in everything.
Right.
And you can't properly, and they have such great people running it. You can't really, on a film like that where it's so driven by the aesthetic, you can't necessarily be running the department. So on a film like I'm on right now, Dan Gilroy's project, we have Jake, we have Toni Collette, we have, oh my God, Zoe Ashton, Tom Stewart. We have so many people, John Malkovich. You can't really be on the set and run and look after number one on a daily basis and prepare all your stuff, whether it's contact lenses or facial hair, stunt doubles.
Yeah.
So I think on Bond, it's better for me to just stay with Daniel.
Like he gets his own department, and then there's like another makeup department.
And they'll have a makeup designer, a very good one actually, Naomi Dunn, who runs it really, really well with a great team. And that's also often 3 or 4 units shooting in many countries.
Right.
That's a lot of responsibility because you're running that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Usually by phone, and we'll have people shooting in sometimes the UK, Mexico, traveling, prepping, packing. There's a lot that goes into it for each department.
Yeah. Is he so nice?
He's the best.
Yeah, it's James Bond.
He's a very well, he's Daniel Craig, so he's a remarkable person and a very, very nice man.
Good. I love to hear that.
He's been very good to me.
Good. Yeah. Awesome. So let's we'll finish up our episode here today chatting with you about things that people can do to get into it. So we've already touched on it a little bit, where you're like, read some books. So if you had that, what was the one that you recommended first?
The Art of Makeup.
The Art of Makeup. Any other options? Like, what are some of the ones that you
Richard Corson's books, you can look them up. They're Fashions in Hair, Fashions in Makeup. There's so much out there now. The Vincent Kehoe book is really the go-to, the professional technique of the makeup artist. It's been reprinted many times. It's available in many. You can find that on Amazon. It's pretty incredible, and everyone interested, not just people interested in makeup, but I think to be a great aspire cinematography, costume design, production design, art direction. Everyone should have a sense of what other people are doing.
Yeah,
and so I'm interested in reading about lighting or costume or fashion history.
Right.
People should be open to that in other areas.
Right, because like specific, like with makeup, right? I would think it's very important to understand some lighting, because there's different things. Like I know, like I personally tried like Bare Minerals when it first came out.
Red camera back. I mean, I've worked in videotape and in traditional 35 millimeter, 16, IMAX. It all changes how you're seeing it presented. So you do need to know a lot about your craft and others, and ask others.
Yeah.
Can I try this? Will this work? And every craft, I think, is the same.
Yeah.
How things light, how they photograph.
Do you do much in prosthetics?
I have done.
Do you usually hire out another department for that?
Well, I'll run it as part of the makeup department.
Right.
Occasionally, like Stronger, I had some prosthetic legs made. I had Autonomous, who work with me here in Los Angeles, Jason, come on board and do some builds, some life casting. But I pretty much oversee it, and I have a background in it, so I know enough about it. I don't sell myself as a prosthetics guy at all.
But you know enough to like be able to communicate with the people who specialize in that.
You need to, because you're responsible for it, and you're doing some of the application, and everything marries together.
Yeah.
But I do more out of kit makeup effects.
Gotcha.
Traditionally.
Right. So then any tips you have for people who just will find themselves as a department head? Because I know that there's a lot in leadership that's not just like putting concealer on somebody's face. There's so much more to it.
Well, it's safety. We have to do a lot more than people realize. You're running a department, so whether you have 2 people or 10 people, health and safety is your responsibility to the studio. Harassment, all of that stuff you hear about now, we are responsible for everybody working with us. So I have days on this film, I may have 7 or 8 makeup artists coming in. You're responsible for their safety, and that they understand what the job is. The administrative side, I don't love so much. The traveling, the going overseas, you have to meet new people, put together teams. I guess that's it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so and then you're sourcing people. So when you're sourcing, you've got your people that you already work with, and now you sometimes will bring in newbies. Where do you typically source those newbies?
Well, I really like it when I get resumes sent to me, or letters, or phone calls, which I don't. A lot of people don't like it. I don't find it invasive if it's real, if it's legitimate, because I've done it. You have to start somewhere.
Right.
But if the letter or the email come accordingly, I mean, and I think it is something, don't call me by my first name.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
It's
the
a
way
very
I was taught.
professional approach.
I think if somebody approached me professionally and said, you know, I'm trying to do, I'll respond. I almost, and if anybody out there hasn't, it's very rare I do not respond. But I am surprised that people will get my email and write to me and then tell me their life story. Other people are asking, how do I start? And I'll respond. Or the great thing with Facebook, which I liked, is any of my students, because I don't usually connect with them on the phone, I tell anybody that I meet who is a student to friend, Facebook friend me.
Yeah.
And that way I can share information if I'm speaking anywhere. It's really important to help people. And I think it's important to say to people that, you know, a makeup department's a big department.
Yeah.
Not compared to construction or costume, but you start somewhere. So whether you're starting and you're working in a store, or you're working in a theater, or in some non-union shop somewhere, you've got to start somewhere. So it's great.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just want to work in the department.
And we've had this that same recommendation from a few of our other guests,
Right.
that they're like, you want to start in something, you have an interest in a certain trajectory,
Right.
reach out to somebody who's doing it in a professional and kind manner, not necessarily in a give me a job, but like, do you have any recommendations for me? Here's the things that I have been doing, and making connections and forging connections. So like, don't go out and stalk people, but you know.
Well, I think a really important thing, I ask people, sometimes I'll ask people to tell me they want to be actors. Why? And somebody had once said to me, and I guess it came from the writer Paul Mazursky, because people always tell you they're writers. I'm thinking, well, what are you writing?
Yeah.
Do you write every day? I mean, and I'll meet people who say they'd love to be makeup artists, and they would love to, you know, and I always encourage people, well, there's hair. Are you interested in hair? There's a real shortage of great hairdressers.
Yeah.
We're all getting older in the industry. We have so many good makeup people, fewer good hair people, because there's a whole life and career out there. Props people. But people need to be told by others who know how to do it. Call this person. They're very helpful.
Yeah.
Go to this course. Sign up for this. Do a volunteer job. Amateur theater. We don't do that so much anymore, but it's our responsibility to help newer people find those venues. And it's a lack of community.
Yeah.
I think that we're not doing that. But I welcome anybody, and I call people all the time and say, look, there's somebody who's interested in sound. I don't know, where should they go? Is there a place? And you'll find some people very helpful.
Yeah. That's what we've seen. Like all of our guests, everybody's been like, if somebody asked me, I would connect them if I could.
Yeah. I think the thing that is the most irritating are when you see ads or people talking about get into the film industry, and it's not like that. I didn't get into the business to make great money.
Yeah.
I really didn't. And it's usually not great money. To be honest, it takes a long time to make the big bucks.
Yeah.
And it's not a long period of time. So if somebody really is interested in working, they'll do it for the love of doing it and getting the experience.
Yes.
So I think when it becomes all about money, you also know the kind of person you're dealing with. And you think, God, you know, there's an opportunity on this movie. Would he or she be interested?
Right.
You almost know right away who really wants to be in this.
Yes. And who's just looking for a shortcut to the top.
Shortcut, or people will say, oh, I can do makeup. It's easy. Like, if one more person says, I'm good at doing makeup, I mean, like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's not about just looking pretty or putting lipstick on.
It's a totally different game.
It's a different game.
Yeah, which is why I don't ever offer to do other people's makeup when they ask me.
But
I'm
hey,
like, it's
great
different.
opportunity. Maybe somebody could come here where the guests need a makeup artist.
Yeah.
Somebody aspiring who's got, you know, who wants to get a credit. This could be a great format, is, you know, being able to, it's just being able to get the experience.
Yes.
That's all anybody needs, is getting your first job is, I think it's the number one hurdle. Once you get that first job, you're good to go.
Awesome. And I think that is a wonderful place to stop. You guys go out there and get some experience, go out there, reach out to the people that are doing the jobs that you are interested in and see what they have to say. So I think that's really wonderful. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much,
having
Donald,
me.
for joining me today. That was so
Thank you.
exciting. You can find him on Twitter at Donald Mowat, on Instagram at Mowat Donald, his website
Thank you.
donaldmowat.com. If you want to listen to this episode through audio, you can find us on iTunes. You can download the podcast. Also, all of the episodes are available on the Popcorn Talk
That's a lot of
YouTube. Lots of information. You can find me all over the internet at Marielou Mandl, and we will see you next time on the Fly Filmmaking.
Marielou, thank you. Thank you so much.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.